what happens if you don't have access to every hero in the game? Gacha games are really good at making you feel like you need to have every new or meta hero in order to progress, and whilst that might be true for PvP content, is it actually true for PvE? How far can you actually get on a free-to-play faction-restricted account where you limit the amount of heroes that you're even going to access? Hi there and welcome to the channel, I'm Slate, and today I'm going to introduce you to a brand new free-to-play challenge series, Light versus Dark, and we're going to hopefully answer that question together. So in terms of what is light and what is dark, essentially the factions in Watcher of Realms have been split into these two affinities, light affinity and dark affinity. Both affinities are allowed to use any heroes that have no affinity. The unnamables are also completely accepted. And then for the light affinity, we're going to be having the Watchguard, the Northerners, then the Starpiercers and the Supreme Arbiters. And then for the dark side, it's going to be the Chaos Dominion, the Infernal Blast, the Cursed Cult, and the Nightmare Council. And yeah, basically you are allowed to use heroes that belong to that faction. Absolutely fine. If they are dual faction, such as Watchguard and Nightmare, it's totally fine. They're allowed to be used. Absolutely no problem. As long as the hero has one of your chosen affinities, you are allowed to use it, or they have to be neutral. Now, speaking of neutral, you'll notice there's one faction I did not speak about, and that is the Esoteric. And that is because they are a very interesting faction in the fact that, as far as I can tell, and from reading all the lore, they are effectively split 50-50 in terms of light versus dark. Lovely example is Elowin. She's a very light-spirited wood elf versus Narissa, who is an undeadly siren octopus. So, what I've done is basically split the esoterics into easy mode and hard mode. Easy mode, you are allowed to use any esoterics that are solo, like this, absolutely fine. You just cannot use ones that are dual affinity with the opposite affinity. So kind of opposite to what I've just said about allowing exceptions. What will happen here is, so for example, you wouldn't be able to use a Valara if you are in dark affinity because she is going to be Arbiter, which is light for the esoteric. And you wouldn't be able to use an Anora if you are light because she is cultist, which is the dark affinity. That's the easy mode. Now, the hard mode is a little one step further and basically says that there are specific heroes that belong to each. So I've gone ahead and split them, and that's going to be on screen. And there are infographics for all of this, so it's quite straightforward. But essentially, yeah, it means that, you know, light gets Elowin and dark gets Narissa. And it seems to be just a little bit more split. And then the other thing is that you are not allowed to use any of the legendary lords. Light gets Raiden and Vixera takes dark. Now you might ask, why would you choose hard mode over easy mode? To be completely honest, it's just a little bit more of a challenge. And I personally think that the challenge is part of the fun, should we say. So yeah, I think that covers all the rules on what heroes that you are allowed to use. Now, in terms of starting your account, the main thing is that you are absolutely allowed to reroll. That is absolutely no problem. And obviously, if you are rerolling for a legendary, typically what that means is reaching N for 15. And then that will be enough summons alongside what you have to do for the Volca quests in order to get those 60 summons to guarantee a legendary. Now, in order to make the reroll sort of process fair, what I've basically said is that you are allowed to use the starter heroes that the game sort of gives you and makes you play with all the way to this point. So that does include Voltus, it includes Navarus now, it would have been Maureen, but that has just changed, and the Pokemon starter marksman thing up to this point, but you can't use any other summoned heroes. If you want to summon and use the heroes that you summon along the way, then you have to declare your affinity and you have to stick to those heroes. So hopefully that makes sense with that. Again, any questions, more than free to try and clarify. I've tried to make the rules as simple as possible. But yeah, obviously starting the game is a little bit hard to immediately switch to the right affinity. So that felt like a good natural point where the game lets you get that first legendary and you can then, you know, switch. In terms of what you need to achieve in order to complete the challenge, like I said, the idea of this is to basically see whether or not you actually need all the heroes in the game in order to beat the PvE content. So what I've done is basically split it into core goals versus flex goals, depending on how long you actually want to play this challenge account for. I'm well aware that most people want to play for like a month to 6 weeks. And so the core goals are sort of more what I call getting to that late game sort of excitement, if that makes sense. And so, yeah, so that is going to be clearing campaign chapter 8 on all levels. It is going to be gear raids 1 to 3 to stage 19, and then gear dungeon 1 and 2 to stage 3. The final thing that you want to have to do is AMR 18 plus, and then over on the guild boss, you're going to go into Drake's Chasm, Nightmare 3, and get this lovely top chest. So yeah, they are the cool goals. And then the flex goals are basically for anyone who wants to play their accounts longer. I am going to be trying to do all of the flex goals myself, and essentially that is the rest of PvE content. So fully clearing campaign, getting the gear raids up to at least 21, gear dungeons to stage 6, clearing AMR, faction trials, the ones that you do have that are factioned, all the way up to stage 12, which is the old one. I'm not including any of the new endgame content because that's a bit difficult. I did put 50k Nightmare 4 in because everyone knows that is basically what you are trying to get to. And I think that's pretty cool. And then obviously Titanic Ruins, APOC 1, that lovely 30k chest. And if you are really crazy and you really want to flex, then give Abyss a go. But yeah, that is basically the split of the flex goals. And what you'll notice here is this little account here is a little bit different. And that is because this is the dark account that I started a few weeks ago, basically as what like I said, I want to look at light versus dark. So I'm going to be doing the light factions on stream live with you guys, showing you the entire progress. And then in the background, I have been plodding along with this to basically have a comparison and have a chat about, basically what the difference is. So yeah, I would absolutely love it if you guys join. Obviously, content creators do join in as much as well as community. It is going to be an absolute blast. And in terms of just a quick, do I go for light? Do I go for dark? What's harder? What's easier? I will say this. If you are going to go for light, you are able to get lots of healers and lots of tanks. And obviously the piercer unit sort of extended range and piercing damage. What you are going to struggle with is AoE magic damage, which is actually kind of important for this game. So that is going to be the big struggle. And then on the dark account, it is essentially flipped. You have a huge amount of AoE magic damage and then very few and lovely amount of fighters. Like, oh my goodness, the Nightmare faction, fantastic for a load of things. Also, you get Volker. You get Volker A1 and all of those funky strategies that can be done with that. But you are going to struggle with healers, and you're going to struggle with tanks, basically. So, there are effectively trade-offs to each side. It's going to be a lot of fun. And for the very first week of the Light versus Dark Challenge, I am going to be live as many days that I can. If I'm able to go live that day, it'll be at 6 p.m. UTC here on YouTube. So, just stay tuned. Obviously, we are going to be doing this live next Sunday in my usual Sunday stream slot. That's where we're going to get started. So do join. I hope you do enjoy. And obviously, even if you do not want to do the challenge yourself, come along for the ride. Come see some of the funky strategies that we'll have to come up with in order to beat the game. And I really hope one of those things is that it then encourages you on your accounts to basically feel a bit more confident and try out different strategies to beat the game. One thing that I found absolutely hilarious was we managed to beat Gear Raid 318 on stream last weekend, basically just using marksman. It was a lot of fun. But yeah, anyway, that is everything from me. Do let me know in the comments below if you are going to join the challenge, if you have decided if you're going to go light or dark, or the other thing, wait and see what your first legendary is and let that be the deciding factor for your affinity. But yeah, that is everything from me today. Do like and subscribe if you haven't already. I look forward to seeing you in the next video and the next live stream and doing this challenge with you. So until then, take care and bye for now.